Hello everyone and welcome back to another Fallout 76 event spotlight. Today I'm going to go over Encryptid, which can be both extremely popular and extremely frustrating, at least until you get an understanding of how everything works at the event. My approach here is going to be a little different than some other guides that have come out, which tend to be focused more on completing the event solo. While you can certainly do that if you've got a very well optimized build, I think most players are going to be attacking this one in a group, or at least relying on the participation of others to complete it. I'll show you how my group tends to handle the event, which should provide a pretty solid explanation of how everything works. There are multiple roles to play at Encryptid, so remember, you don't necessarily need to be a damage-dealing monster to participate, but you should get an idea of how it all works. Remember, if you like videos like this one, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. It helps grow the channel and tells me what kind of content people like to see the most. So let's get into it. The first thing you probably want to know about are the rewards. The most sought-after item that can drop from the event is, of course, the Fixer plan. The Fixer is basically a combat rifle, but it's one that does 20% more damage than the basic combat rifle and has 2 extra effects: increased movement speed while sneaking, and it helps you become harder to detect while sneaking. It's perfect for a stealth commando build, which is one of the most popular character builds in Fallout 76. By learning the plan for the Fixer, you'll get access to legendary versions of the weapon. Those can now drop from the Purveyor and from a variety of events around the map, but you have to know the plan first. 2 important notes on the Fixer plans. First, this is not a guaranteed drop from the event. My experience is that it drops once in about 20 successful events. It's not ridiculously hard to get, but don't get frustrated if it takes a little grinding before you get it. Second, I've run this event a lot, hundreds of times. I've never seen anyone get a Fixer plan who hasn't also completed the Lying Low quest line. I can't confirm 100% that it's required in order for the plan to drop, but it seems that might be the case. So before you start grinding away at the event, just go ahead and complete that quest if you haven't already, just to be safe. 2 other popular rewards are the Sheep Squatch mascot outfit, which is a mask and an outfit, and the Imposter Sheep Squatch outfit and helmet. The mascot outfit is a fairly common drop from the event. If you do it a handful of times, you'll almost certainly collect both pieces. The Imposter outfit is more rare, but still more common than the Fixer plan. The event also gives you 4 treasury notes that you can trade in for gold bullion. The Imposter Sheep Squatch is a 3-star legendary, and when it comes to legendaries, there's usually a bunch of them. The event will spawn dozens and dozens of robots. While sometimes you don't see any legendaries in the mix, more often than not, there can be 5 or even more. So make sure to loot all the metal piles at the end. You'll be surprised what you come up with. There's also, of course, the White Wolf Fedora. This slick little hat is the most common drop from the event. It looks great, but if you run the event a lot, you'll be swimming in them. Sell them to a train station vendor for a few caps, or just build up a collection like I am. Hopefully one day we can put them on display. We can't right now for some reason, but when we can, I'll finally be able to achieve my dream of building a White Wolf Fedora museum at my camp. The next important thing to understand about the event is how to start it. It's a public event, but it doesn't just automatically start up. To get it started, you'll need to travel to the Pylon ambush site in the Ash Heap just northwest of Lewisburg. But that's not all. Before you get there, you'll need to make sure you have an Assaultron Recall Keycard. You get one of those keycards when you complete the Lying Low quest line, but if you want more of them, you'll need to buy a special component and craft them. And that special component doesn't come cheap. You can buy it at any train station vendor, but before you do, make sure you've got your hard bargain perk activated and buff up your charisma as high as you can. That'll lower the price. You want to look under the miscellaneous tab at the vendor for the Recall Keycard circuit board. With my character running a full set of unyielding armor and hard bargain 3, I get it to its lowest price of 1,750 caps. Without some of those buffs, you can expect to pay as much as 2,000. Once you've picked up your circuit board, head to a tinker's bench to craft your keycard. I tend to buy these circuit boards anytime I'm getting close to 30,000 caps, the maximum any character can hold. So I have a few here all ready to craft. Every train station usually has one or two in stock, so it's a good way to burn some caps when you need to. In addition to the circuit board, you'll need 3 copper, 1 rubber, 2 steel, and 1 stable fluorescent flux. With the flux component in there, they're not exactly cheap to make. Sadly, I've tried to craft these with super duper enabled, but it's never had any effect on the output. I've crafted hundreds of these, so I feel pretty confident in saying it doesn't work. So no need to swap your cards around. Once you've crafted your keycard, you're ready to head to the ambush site and start the event. Once you fast travel into the site, you'll see electrical pylons in the distance and a cabin to the south-southeast. Inside the cabin is the terminal you'll use to start up the event. There's even a tinker's bench there in case you forgot to craft your keycard before you got here. One important thing to note: if someone else initiated Encryptid on your server, there's a 3-hour cooldown before it can be started again. Unfortunately, there's no way to know if it's ready to start or not. You just have to give it a try. If it works, you're good. If it doesn't, you probably want a server hop. When my friends and I decide to farm the event, we usually start on a public world, then alternate between each other's private worlds. That way we know it'll be ready to start and we don't have to get frustrated with repeated server hopping. I think it would be smart for Bethesda to reduce that cooldown time. I don't really see why it needs to be so long. When you're ready, go into the terminal and choose the entry Unlock Recall System. This will start up the public event and send out a server-wide notification that Encryptid is starting so other players can join the event.
Alright, listen up, agents. If you're hearing this, that means I left unfinished business for you. That don't sit well with me. You've just initiated the recall process for a rogue assaultron. A tough one. This thing's got a shield so strong, hardly anything will dent it. But I have just the solution for that. There are 3 pylons set up around the area. Starting one of these up makes you a conduit. Long story short, that means you're full of juice. Juice that pumps from you right into that robot shield. You'll need all 3 active to down it. Good luck. Hope you fare better than I did.
At this point, you'll see a 10-minute countdown timer in the top right of your screen, much like we saw at Project Paradise and like we see at Radiation Rumble. That's there to ensure that players have time to get to the event. For difficult events like these, people need a minute or two to stop by their camps, unload junk, swap weapons, or whatever the case might be. Unless you have an experienced and well-prepared team all ready to go like we do here, it's best to let this timer go down to about a minute. That leaves time for as many people as possible to show up. One thing that everyone should know: as you've seen, it's not cheap to initiate this event. So a good rule of thumb to follow if you show up when it pops on the map is this: if it wasn't your keycard, keep your fingers off the computer. The person who initiated it might be waiting for friends to load in, or might just be trying to leave as much time as possible for people to show up. Make sure you let them decide when to start it. Sometimes weird things happen. People get disconnected, they get sidetracked, whatever. If the timer gets down to a minute, then go ahead and start it up. But by and large, if you didn't trigger it, you probably shouldn't rush it. Once you're ready to proceed, head back to the terminal and choose the option to initiate Assaultron Recall. At this point, things are going to start to get chaotic. For about 30 seconds, you'll start to see robots approach. Protectrons, Gutsies, and I-bombs. That's right, they're not normal I-bots. These explode when you destroy them, so be careful. They often set up huge chain reactions. After that, the imposter Sheepsquatch, a particularly nasty Assaultron, will show up, but she'll be invisible and you won't be able to do any damage to her just yet. This is because her shields are too strong. In order to bring them down, players need to act as conduits for the 3 pylons surrounding the area. They all need to be activated in order to damage the imposter. Now here's the problem. Any player who starts up a pylon will take constant damage from it. If they take more than 1 pylon, they'll take even more damage. so whoever's taking Pylons needs to be prepared. They'll need plenty of stim packs or other healing items. If you're using stim packs, I strongly recommend wearing power armor when taking Pylons. Power armor allows you to use stim packs without any animation, so you can spam a bunch of them quickly and stay alive easier. Another good item to use is Nuka-Cola Quantums or Scorch Beast foods. If you assign those to your quick wheel, you can access them pretty quickly. If you're on PC, you can even assign them to hotkeys, which makes them even easier to use. If there are a lot of people at the event, it's possible that many players will take Pylons, and that's fine. If you're a tanky build with plenty of healing items, go ahead and take one. Just remember that when you're a Pylon conduit, your priority is to stay alive. If you start running around killing things, it's very easy to lose track of your health bar and die, which isn't very helpful because then somebody else needs to take that Pylon, and it gets pretty challenging to keep track of who's doing what. Your best bet is to take one or more Pylons and get out of the way. Crouching on top of the cabin can work, or just crouching along the perimeter of the event. The key is to stay out of sight of the robots, and especially the imposter sheep squatch. You want to try to get a shot or two in on her for loot and XP, but remember, your priority is to keep yourself alive. The best rewards come from completing the event itself, not looting yet another nocturnal rolling pin from a legendary boss. If you have an organized team like we do here, the best thing to do is have one person dedicated to taking all 3 Pylons. Everybody can take turns being the Pylon tank, or if you have someone who's really good at it, just share your healing items with them and let them go to work. You'll take a lot of damage if you take all 3 Pylons yourself, but it makes it a lot easier to keep track of what's going on and stay focused on the task at hand, which is staying alive so the damage dealers on your team can take down the imposter. Now that we know all about taking Pylons, let's look at 2 other roles you can play at the event. You can be a damage-dealing monster, or you can be the distraction. Let's look at the distraction first. In this role, your job is to run around and be loud. Attract the attention of the robots and the imposter so that it's on you and not on the person taking Pylons or your damage dealer, who's probably hiding so they can lay down sustained fire on the imposter when the opportunity strikes. Power armor is a good choice when playing this role. It gives you good protection and makes lots of noise. Loud weapons, heavy guns, unsuppressed shotguns or rifles. Really, anything loud are also good choices. Obviously, you want to try to stay alive, but inevitably, you'll go down at some point. That's okay. You'll respawn in a few seconds. With that said, you do want to make sure you're communicating with your teammates. There is a bug that can strike if you die exactly as the event ends, where you'll die and be totally unable to respawn. If your teammates know you died, they should slow down and try not to kill the imposter until you respawn. As chaotic as this event can be, that's easier said than done, but if you get a group together to farm it, you'll get the hang of it soon enough. In this role, doing damage is secondary to just causing commotion. It's certainly helpful if you can do a lot, but it's not vital. The reality is that any major damage dealers at the event, usually the sneaky bloodied builds, can destroy everything. While any damage you do helps, it's not vital. Take a few shots, run away. Take a few more shots, run away again. Just keep moving and keep the imposter's attention on you. Eventually, someone will get sustained fire in and take her down. This role is great for lower level players who want to participate in the event, but really can't do much damage or keep themselves alive while taking Pylons. They'll basically be cannon fodder, but that's not so bad when death just means your respawn takes a few seconds longer. The next role to play is the one I'm usually in, the sneaky damage-dealing monster. As we discussed earlier, Stealth Commando is a very popular build in Fallout 76. Chances are, a handful of them are going to show up for Encryptid. They usually run low health builds and don't typically use power armor, so on a public server, it's unlikely that they'll be prepared to take Pylons or run around causing commotion. If you're at the event and you're a tanky build, you'll be most useful as a Pylon tank or in the role of a distraction. If you're stealthy, this next job is for you. Your first priority here is to get into a good overwatch position. On top of the cabin can be good, on top of some of the fallen tree trunks can work too. What you have to do here is clear the field as much as possible for the person taking pylons. If they get overwhelmed by too many robots, they're going to have a bad time. The biggest groups of them usually come from the east, so focus your attention there. Once they have all 3 pylons, the imposter will become vulnerable. If you have a shot lined up, start laying into her. Unlike most enemies, an Assaultron's weak point isn't its head, it's the torso. The limbs are just as weak, but the torso is an easier target to hit, so take advantage of that. You can see how much damage I'm doing here. It moves pretty quickly once those pylons are down. You'll also notice how effectively she's being distracted, so her attention isn't on me. Unfortunately, with all that fighting right underneath me and all those shots coming from above, she decided to blanket the area with her head laser and set everything on fire. I don't have a choice but to move. That fire does pretty fast damage over time, so don't mess around with it. The key to moving here is to take your time and be aware of your surroundings. The event is chaotic, but you have to try not to let it get the best of you. Move around, take out threats when you have to, and try to stay in caution, which means enemies don't know where you are. If you happen to get killed, don't worry, you're going to respawn in a few seconds, and you'll be right back in the event. At this point, I need to move around anyway, so it's not really that big of a deal. As long as the pylons are still being held, which they are here, then everything is fine. Just keep on keeping on. Do your best to stay hidden, take out any threats that need to be eliminated, and eventually get yourself lined up with the imposter and take care of business. That, ladies and gentlemen, is basically everything you need to know about Encryptid. Take the pylons, keep the people holding the pylons safe, kill the robots. The strategy I laid out here works well for my group when we farm the event. There's usually just 3 or 4 of us, and we never fail. While I am saying that this strategy works well for us, I'm not saying that it's the only way to complete the event. There are plenty of different strategies out there, but what I like about this method is that it has roles for everyone to play. Even newer, less experienced players, or those who might just have less than optimized builds. How about you? Do you or your friends have a different strategy that works well for you? Tell everyone about it in the comments. There's more than one way to skin a robotic sheepsquatch. As always, if you found this video helpful, if you enjoyed it, or anything in between, be sure to leave a like and most importantly, subscribe. Till next time, I'm Fisty McRib.